But quality mass production needs even more than machines and instruments and inspection. Chevrolet quality mass production demands people. People who are trained, skillful, and alert. Thousands of people. But beyond the men, machines, and instruments of production is the job of putting all the parts together. It takes timing to swing a box girder frame onto a moving line.
Well, hello again, guys. Thank you so much for coming back and joining me. In this video, I hope to accomplish quite a bit, actually. We need to get our 235, this is out of a 54 Chevy, into the 48 Chevy. Now, we have a lot to do, a lot of individual components to go through, get back in running order, and then we need to get this in the car. It's a heavy list, but we can do it. Let's get to work. Now, the first thing a guy wants to do is get the pulley and balancer on the crankshaft, but we got a problem, and that is we got a deep groove machined from the old seal into our hub here. Just another testament that this is all old original engine. We saw that in the drivetrain, the camshaft, valve train, camshaft, everything really I think has been pretty well preserved, though abused. So who's been stepping on my table? Anyway, we're going to put this on. As you can see, Felpro 16202. This is a sleeve. That would be correct for small block Chevys, and it should be the correct for a Chevy 235 as well, 216. What is with this tube? It is just... This has had time to cure. The Loctite, that is. So we're going to oil everything up here. And we're going to bump her on. Next, I might as well take care of our thermostat housing and our happy little frog gasket. Just get it off the shelf, get it out of the way. Won't be in my way to throw the engine in, so. Stove bolts, or the pan heads, whatever you want to say, I got from Fleetmaster to hold the covers on. I ended up getting stainless just to eliminate future corrosion, and that way I don't feel like I have to strip off the zinc and do all that and re-dip them in black oxide. I don't want to start getting a huge variety of fastener finishes on this project. I don't want to be like that, but it doesn't really matter, you know. It's not a full-on restoration project, although we get so deep into it and it starts to feel like it, right? Anyway, these bolts I've got stainless as well, just happen to have them. so they will at least match the stove bolts. I got a little much. Now on our water pump, this is just going to be an experiment. Don't know if we're going to even be successful here. But I've got our 3/8 pulley from Chevs of the 40s. Let's see, we have a 5/8 on there. I don't think it was leaking. Wherever the wee pull is there, we can see nothing. It doesn't even look like anything was coming out of there. The bearing may be a little stiff, but it feels nice and smooth. I may pull off the back cover and replace the gasket. We of course get one with the gasket kit that comes with everything else. If we can get the screws out, we can see it's been done already and they are quite chewed up there. So I think the first thing I want to do, and I may have to, we'll just see how it goes. I may apply heat, but we're going to put this in the press and see if we can get this changed out. Would of course not being ideal. I however had them close at hand laying on the floor just over there, so I thought I'd try it. And what do you know, it's just coming right on through. So good deal. I don't know if I can turn that by hand even. Oh yeah, there she goes. Well, that was easier than expected. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Now I was able to get the first one out with the impact driver. The left-hand one was so chewed up, it just wasn't making contact. I was even trying to use the flat standard tip on there. I'm just breaking the tip. Anyway, so hoping that I didn't have just the greatest contact on my gasket, I came in with a punch and started pivoting sideways our plate with a hammer till it started unscrewing the screw, you know, that kind of thing. And now that contact's broken. That rust on the beveled portion there we go. No heat required. I think I'm going to throw this whole works into a bath of citric acid and let that cook in there for a couple days. Get rid of all the rust, internal and external and otherwise. Maybe tap the old bearing out, maybe not, we'll see. And then we'll see what it looks like. All right, well, I do have my misgivings about putting, you know, the bearings and so forth in the solution as well. But I'm going to take the chance, okay? So, and if it messes it up, then I'll deal with the consequences. But citric acid is such a mild deal that I really don't see it being a problem. Certainly not with the rubber seals, and even the ball bearings. I really don't think, if it gets to them, it's not going to be a problem. I really don't think so. I would say antifreeze is probably more caustic than this stuff. So, maybe not quite, but anyway, come back in a day or two and see how it goes. Time for a new can of this. Low. Can is low and it's thick. And that doesn't help us. Got two. Well, I ordered a small box from a Master car. These are 5/16 18 by 18 thread, I think. 82 degrees, half-inch long bevel head screws there. So that tiny little red budget-friendly Wilton antique vise on the other end of the shop, that thing opens 4.5 inches. Guess what this big old Chungus Chinese vise opens? 4.5 inches. I mean, that just makes sense to me. It's good stuff, Maynard. I need at least 5 to squeeze our pulley back on. I should really use a press at home, you know, or get a press here, but I don't have one here. So we're just gonna, you know, I guess we don't need a vise. I had this bad boy professionally ground. The last one I did on my brake lathe, and it worked just fine on that one, but this one had some hot spots in it that were hardened and did not want to, the cutter did not want to take care of them. So took it in and had it ground. Who keeps coming in and making such a mess? God, I ought to talk to that guy. Well, I've done it a couple times now and not sure really what I'm doing here, what I'm doing wrong, but I've used the alignment tool, I've torqued down the pressure plate. When I go to put the transmission in, somehow something I'm doing is misaligning the disc. How it's moving at all at that point, I have no clue. It just doesn't, I can't get the pilot lined up. So then I put the transmission down and I try to realign the clutch disc with a extension, and it absolutely doesn't budge. So I mean, it's the pressure plate's putting pressure on it, so I'm not exactly sure how it's moving, but it is. So well, what's wrong with you now? It's all fighting me, my goodness. Anyway, So I put a couple bolts in only this time, and they're just kind of snugged down. And we'll see if we can, if I move it again, hopefully we can move it back. No, you go in there. There you go. Also got to hopefully use my knees and see if I can get that lined up that way. Okay, little fella. Oh. I need to be on a creeper, I think. Got the bearing. Keep going. Okay. 9 gear. I don't think so. Now what? I always want to weld a nut on here so I can just do this with the impact. Okay, let's slowly go down half a foot. Try to pull it backwards just a little. There you go. Okay, let's go down again. Right. Down again. Okay. In. Down. Right. Well, down. Okay. Go backwards. Well, that was a little beggar of a thing. Good grief, that was a struggle. Getting that transmission to slide together. I don't know what... I put the transmission without any of the clutch other than the flywheel. I just put it in there without the disc, without the pressure plate, and the input shaft went into the bearing in the back of the crank just fine. But once I had the combination of everything in there, it did not want to go in. So we finally got it. I had my oldest boy was here, and we got that put together, and then he helped me get this started putting in here. Now this thing was missing a lot of hardware here and there when I took it apart, and certain things like going through the front plate into the front mounts. Those are a different thread than the mounts that I took out of here. Not sure what that's about. I need a 7/16 fine thread going back in, and at least I don't have them. They could have broke. They could have been seized up and broke, but I don't remember that. Certain things, I have a NOS transmission mount. I put it under there, inside the car there, and but I'm missing some fine thread hardware there. Just here and there, a lot of little things. It's sitting in here, it's sitting on the rear mounts. You know, gravity and friction are holding it in right now. So it's Friday late afternoon. I'm going to wrap this up with plastic, keep the bugs out of it, and get some hardware coming, and then we will tackle it again. Now, I know we've talked about this in the past. In fact, I was just talking about some of this stuff when I was taking the drivetrain apart on the 40 Chevy pickup. But I am checking the tension or the preload on our torque tube ball here, and I think I've got it as good as I'm gonna get it. Now, the best gasket kit comes with your two gaskets for the ball assembly, and then it comes with 4 kind of thinner paper, the black gasket material shims. And I've actually got 4 in there. I started with 2, but that was way too tight. In fact, this thing had this monstrosity in there. I mean, that's like made out of a pizza box from the 60s or something. But anyway, I wanted to double check. I kind of assumed we would need to get thick, you know. I started with 2, it was way too tight, so I put all 4 in. And we got her moving in there, and but not floppy. You know, there is a slight bit of tension on there, and again, we want to do that without the cork gaskets. These will tighten it up some, because you are, after all, sealing one piece to the other on both ends there. So probably a good idea to do this every single time if you take this apart. But certainly if you're working on an old project like this that hasn't been touched in decades, definitely a good idea to check it every time. But say you've just changed out the oaky bushing and now you had a leak, and so you want to take care of that and put this back together, most likely you get by just fine with the same shims in it. But anyway, I will show you couple other things when I proceed, but I am going to put this in there and this in the back end. You have seen all of this with the Stylemaster, so anyone new here can certainly go back into the 48 Chevy playlist and find those videos and watch that. I'm not going to get too detailed here. Well, that rear cork seal was a mother of a brother, but we got her on there. And here's the notch that I've talked about that Chevy put in there from the factory, and you'll notice it's the same profile as our U-joint there. So I could easily bring this up by hand. I mean, the bushings and everything in the rear suspension kind of fight you, but I've got a jack under there just so I'm not having to fight it. Hold the weight of it lining up my trunnions here. So we're going to jack this up. You can also see how the crossover brake line coming from the master, that's why it's formed like that. So a guy can slip that all past here. I'm doing this with my foot out the door. I may not have that U-joint pushed in far enough. Let's just see if it goes in a little farther. Whoop. Let's turn it sideways. Maybe they meant it to go like that. Yeah, I bet they did, actually, now that I'm studying it a little closer at the moment. That's okay, right? I never claimed to be an expert. All right, a few more inches, and get this lined up. There we go. Now I'll put my trunnions back in there, tighten those down. We can tighten down the ball, and our drive line is complete. By the way, oh, it's right here. The red transmission mount that you see right there. I just love this kind of stuff. Don't you? I believe this was an eBay purchase, just for fun. I checked out the condition of the rubber, and it all seemed perfectly fine. Let me back up here a little bit. Find it interesting, it says 40 to 42, so this was evidently something made during that time, because obviously we are working on a 48, and it's still the same part. Doan. Huh. I love it. Probably look better if I got that piece of foam off the car. Looks like a Twinkie. Anyway, pretty much got our entire drivetrain set where it's going to be. Everything's tightened down other than the linkages. I need to get under there, work on that, and I know there's some things that I need to straighten up, the shifting levers and so on and so forth. However, at the end of the day yesterday, I kind of turned my attention to the accessories off the crankshaft here, and I'll bring you in closer. I think I bought this through Chevs of the 40s, but we have a vintage auto garage kit for our 12-volt power supply. Let's just look at it closer. So I was wanting to line everything up with the belt. Turns out I need to get a bigger belt, a different belt. I have a bigger belt, but it's too big. You don't need to know any of that information. But it comes with a alternator bracket that's got slots in it, so you can really get good adjustment wherever you need, whatever you need to do with it. Of course, it's all in 3/8. We put the 3/8 pulley on the water pump. Everything is lining up okay. I considered stripping off their CAD coating, their zinc coating, whatever they got going on these brackets. I'll probably just leave it. I'm not getting too carried away on this project with finishes. We really just need to make it work, you know, and make it enjoyable. So we got the old 3-wire alternator here, and I really need to get that kind of, I want it halfway out at least. Our pigtail connector's right here, and I don't want that up against the block, so kind of halfway adjustment will be perfect. But everything's looking great, lining up. I've got the harnesses for it from them. Not that I need it. I mean, all that stuff came with the bare bones kit, the Ron Francis. It also came with 12-volt coil bracket, horn relay. Don't need that. What else? All kinds of stuff. So anyway, I think at this point I got this squared away. I may put the fan on, that's going to be convenient, and then get the radiator mount in here. Maybe even the radiator. Just keep moving forward. Sometimes you can only fiddle with things only so long, and then you gotta act, right? So with this new pulley, I could only get one, maybe two bolts lined up in any of the 4 positions available, right? And it just wasn't working. So my answer for that, I started the one, and then and they were just barely off, right? So I'm just using my 1/4 inch tap here, and in effect I'm cutting threads in the fan just on one side and using the holes in the pulley to line it up, which tells you how little it was actually off, but it was certainly off. So just one way you can do that if you run into a similar problem. That's on. I'm gonna head, well, I was gonna say I want to move towards the manifolds. Maybe I should work on the linkages while there's room there, and then maybe we'll hit the manifolds and the radiator. I don't know, there's so many exciting options. So kind of each direction I go, I'm running into a roadblock, let's say, and that's just part of the thing when you're not necessarily doing a complete restoration. That's what you run into. You guys have all, you've all experienced the same things, just not perhaps as often as I put myself through it. But all of our linkages have got problems, okay? Our small shift rods and our large shift rods, there's little rubber bushings that go in there. Those were all shot. Everything was loose and worn out. This shift arm here, that's your main one. This arm was bent down, so I straightened that out, and I got it to where that's operating. You've also got to keep it keep the gap here so that this little bent rod, which is hooked to your when you pull forward to go into first and reverse, that's sliding in there. So all of that is straightened out. My parking brake banana should be welded to this stud, and that should pivot. So I'm guessing all of this is seized up. There's a spring and a washer and a cotter pin. So I got to pull all that out, re-weld this, and then I can hook the parking brake lever up. What else? I noticed when I was playing around with the radiator that the top, well, now the hose is in the way, but this top neck is, it looks like it's got a crack all the way around it. So I'll pull that back out and probably just resolder it, throw it in a bucket of water, and put my pressure test adapter on there, the old adapter-rooney, and then make sure that's working for a guy. If you remember when I pulled this engine apart, we did not have all of the correct clamps for our manifolds. There was things like weird, I remember there was a nut for an electrical switch down in here on one, and I forget what was on the other. These need the little half clamp doohickeys on this side, so I will probably just make 2 small ones to look correct. And then we need like 4-inch bolts on the ends, and the hardware is just kind of a mess, but we'll get it all straightened out. Then what I did last night before I went home, so this was pinched off, you'll remember, and it was just laying in there. This is for the center oiling feed for the rocker shaft assembly. So I bent a new piece of line because I kind of straightened that out and tried to use it, but it just wasn't going to work, and it was way too close to the weep hole, so that was getting welded over, and on it goes. So got a new piece of line, and I cut the original back to good material, and we got our weep hole drilled in there, and that should work pretty good. So that is ready. I need to clean up all of the rocker assemblies in solvent, get that all clean, and then we can reinstall all that. Just a million things to do before we get this thing fired up, so I better keep working. All right, we are going to start throwing our rocker assemblies together. I've got half of it cleaned up in solvent, and we're going to do that and then go to the other half. Now, unfortunately, our original rocker shafts are completely trashed. I mean, you can definitely see the problem there. Brand new set from Chevs of the 40s, $75 for the pair. One thing we need to keep in mind is that the side with whatever this is, 9 holes, goes up to feed the rocker shaft, the rocker arms. Our springs, this first cone-shaped spring, the large end will go towards the clip. The small end matches the diameter, basically, of the intermediate springs, and that goes up against the rockers. I'm going to be blowing through our rockers just to make sure they're free, and I'm going to be oiling everything as we go. So, just make sure we have air through there. That feels good. A little bit of Earl. And these standoffs are not symmetrical. They have an extra gusset there going towards the valve side, the valve spring side. Alright, now that's going to hold our tension, and that's going to mark where the top of the shaft is for the rest of the procedure here. These feel really pretty good on this new shaft, so that ought to do it. And at the very end here, I have another kind of a bushing or a spacer, and then our feed pipe. May even just go set that down on the head. So so it's nice and safe. All right, oil and assembly lube abound in this region, for anyone that might be concerned, I guess. Get everything started here, right? Ah, valve stem. Okay. Alright, I think everything is looking really good here. We will of course go through and set all these, set all the valve lash to a cold setting, which you won't get that value. You take your hot settings in the book and add a couple thousandths, and that'll get you up and running, and then when it's hot, check it again, and you will most likely have to tighten them up. But anyway, the oiler's looking good. It's not bound up or anything, and looks like that'll work. The end of it's going right towards that push rod hole, right where it was originally. So I think we're good. Here are our little bushings, little rubber bushings. These are from Chevs of the 40s. I've already got our little range selector rod, our secondary little rod in there. There's the main shift rod. And I don't know if it's worth trying to show anything here. I need to get some, want to get some lithium on this thing, but anyway, that should go in there. Being a little stubborn at the moment, but we'll get that going and greased up. I'm not going to get too caught up in a lot of details here. We've been so detailed in the past on the StyleMaster. It'd just be very repetitive. I have gone through our entire front end suspension with pry bars, and the steering also. Oh, I need to double check the tie rods with the pliers, but all of the suspension, everything is tight. I've replaced kingpins, and they had more slop in it than these do. Okay, maybe not slop a lot, but anyway, what I'm saying is we're really good. I'm gonna grease them and be fine. Our sway bar links, they were shot, the bushings anyway, so I replaced those. Otherwise, yeah, grease, check tie rods, and I think we're good. Also need to adjust brakes all around. We'll do that maybe when we can put it on a lift. Anyway, I am having to work with the infamous parking brake banana, if you're familiar with those. This pivot was seized up in the bracket, which is right down here, of course. That was absolutely seized up. Had to get the torch out, heat everything up, beat it, and we finally got it. Cotter pin in there was a nightmare because you just can't hardly get to the thing. But once I got that out, then I re-welded it into the banana. You know, they must have really horsed down on the handbrake in the cab, and it could have happened over time. But anyway, we will anti-seize that pivot up really well and get that all back in place. And It just has a spring and a washer that holds tension on it, and you put your pin in when it's in there. So I'm going to get that all hooked back up. I've got my shift rods hooked up. Looks like I need to bend the cotter pins. Oh, nice. Has a bird been in here? Now I need to turn our engine over so we can time it properly. I just quickly made up a bracket to do that a little bit easier than fiddling around at the flywheel part of it, And what we need to do is keep turning this and keep watching the pointer on the bell housing. And I will give you a closer look when I get it there, but what we're looking for is a steel ball or a BB pressed into the flywheel. My exhaust valve is open. Alright, so we got a triangle going past the pointer. And then a 5. And then there's our steel ball right there. And then you see a UC. So I'm going to take it back to the steel ball right about there. And number 1, top dead center. Both intake and exhaust are at the same height, so both of my valves are completely closed. Oh, that's beautiful. slowly but surely, and don't call me Shirley, we are getting there. What came along with the vehicle for air cleaners, we have this oil bath bottom, which isn't even, have my doubts that's ever even for a Chevrolet. Way too big, and there's no clamp on the bottom. Not sure what the application of that is. And then we got this dry type. So that's the element. My parts house has a paper element. And then the lid. It's not without its problems. Little beat up, and we will probably end up just getting some JB weld. You know, this isn't the end of the world on this. A guy could start cutting apart and spending hours replacing all that. But there's a little pinhole down there too. But at the end of the day, for this one, I think we can make it functional, make it work, and not spend a whole lot of labor on it. So, that is in the works. Oil filter is mostly on. I need a fitting for my vacuum line. Hook up my cables. Carburetor will be on. A little more electrical under the hood to do. I need to fix up the battery tray. It's got a lot of corrosion and rust. So we just need to part that together, piece that together again. I need to get heater lines. I need to get heater barbs. Both of them were omitted on this. Adjust valves. Clean up. Make sure the starter works. On and on it goes. So I need to finish with the linkages for the clutch, for the transmission, make sure that's all adjusted right. I ended up ordering a radiator. I started to fix the original Harrison on this one, and there were just kind of too many hairline cracks, especially in the top tank, but the bottom also. And if I had a good place to boil out a radiator, get it nice and clean, and then go to soldering it, then that would be very helpful, but I just don't. I guess we could try to rig up something, but in the end, so much labor was getting racked up that I was like, no, we just might as well get a radiator. So we've got that to do, finish some things, you know, and then we're very, very close to getting this thing started and down on all four tires again. And then we need to do windshield gasket, and we're going to put an electric wiper motor on here. The owner asked me to do that, and then it'll go home. So I'm going to stop this video here without us hearing it running. There's just way too many little things on the checklist to finish up, but I'm going to keep pushing on this project and getting it done. It is going home this fall, and so yeah, be looking for the next video on this one very soon, I hope. And we'll just keep doing our best. God bless you guys. See you on the next one. What am I doing?